Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we're reviewing With the Beatles, the Beatles' second album released in 1963. It's pretty good, and it's about to hit its 60th anniversary next year, in about a year. It's all a year, basically. This album was released at the end of the year, but still good time as any to review it. This is the track listing. 6 out of the 14 tracks here are covers, but they're still pretty good because some of them I hadn't heard before, and some of them are the Beatles versions are the most popular versions of them because of the Beatles. And these are the tracks I added to my playlist. 10 out of the 14. The early Beatles albums are pretty relatively solid through and through, but most of the songs are just early 60s bubble pop sound, so they're all a bit antiquated a little bit, but they're still pretty good. The only problem is it's a bit repetitive between the songs, but there's still enough difference that it's interesting. Sort of 60s music early 60s music and late 50s music kind of is defined by that in today's world. Um, the fact is that most of these songs on this album are just good. There's not anything spectacular, but there's not really anything that really sucked. There were no singles off of this album, and my favorite here is probably got to go with Roll Over Beethoven, which I think is a really great song. I love the original. I love this cover. They're both really good, that song overall. Chuck Berry's good songs are pretty much all good. Um, and then if I was to choose an original song, I would probably go with either the opening track, It Won't Be Long, or Hold Me Tight, which are both pretty good in my opinion. So I technically rank this album second to last of all Beatles albums, but that's really kind of a problem with the Beatles' early work. It just can't hold, it can't hold up to the Beatles' later work. Like their later work is just amazing. The main thing is that their early work does get better each album, in my opinion. So basically, all the way up to Help, these are first album, second album, third album, fourth album, fifth album. So um, which is why, yeah, so this is why With the Beatles is better than Please Please Me, in my opinion. But they're all relatively the same. I just think they get slightly better, more polished. Um, and as I mentioned, With the Beatles takes my top spot from 1963, although their only competition is themselves with Please Please Me, which was released earlier in that same year. And I just think that With the Beatles is a little more polished than their first one, which is still good, but it's a bit rough, kind of the style. Of course, they basically recorded that album in one day. They just sat in the studio and recorded it all. So that's kind of to be expected. The quality of the songs overall stays the same, but With the Beatles, I think is just a little bit more thought out compared to Please Please Me, which is kind of just more going. Next up, we have Billy Joel's final album as of 2022. I presume he's not going to make more music. Final album, River of Dreams, released in 1993. It's an amazing finale to his career. Really great album, one of his best, and I'm excited to review it. So thanks, and as always, stay minty.